Welcome to Ask the FM Doctor, an interactive web series brought to you by the Simplar Foundation and IFMA to help you navigate the complex and ever-changing world of facility management. Whether you're a seasoned professional or a newcomer to the field, you'll find valuable insights and tips to deliver a better experience for your stakeholders while saving money. Join us on the third Tuesday of every month at 1 p.m. Eastern U.S. time to learn from our FM docs while connecting with other facility managers from around the world. Register today at simplerfoundation.org/FM-doctor so you don't miss an upcoming session.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. We have a couple of folks here today, so thank you all for being here today. We're excited to have you. We have a couple announcements here. Just a reminder about who the Simplar Foundation is. We're a group of researchers and educators. Mike Bound joins me as well today. So encourage you to ask questions for those that are watching the recording or those that hear this live. So we have Marjorie, so thank you so much for being here today. We work a lot with industry and academia in a variety of different settings. And so we certainly welcome you here today, and we're glad to provide this. So today's topic is focusing on the state of women in facility management. So how did this kind of came about? I know that myself going through this, we did a number of studies over the years, and we found is that the involvement of women in facility management is not as representative as certainly as everyone would like to see. And so this particular study was looking at, what's the reasons for that? What does the data show us? And we offer some thoughts about what that might look like. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. The reason why we're focused on this is that, again, historically, women have been underrepresented in FM, and given all the initiatives related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, this has certainly changed. And so we wanted to better understand what's happening from a research and data analysis standpoint. And we'll close it out today with some ideas for future research and what we all having come to the line to address these questions. So the methodology for this, we looked at IFMA has actually done a couple of previous studies related to salary and demographics for facility managers, professionals all throughout the world. We had a pilot survey, so we had a group of SMEs that provide their thoughts and impacts and feedback. And so based on what they said, we adjusted our surveys. We made comments based on what they had recommended from there. We sent the survey to over 12,000 members. These are also included non-IFMA members. So basically anybody that has an interest in facility management was invited to participate in the survey. And that's how we got that put together. We had a total of 3,500 people respond, which from a research standpoint, that was just absolutely fantastic to have such a large representative sample in terms of what this looks like. I will say that this was a global study, but we converted everything to US dollars. And the only reason for that is just to make it easier to compare and understand what these trends are. So that's why those are presented in US dollars, but it does present local currencies by different regions as well. So for the entire survey, you can see here that we had about 600 women participate in the survey, and we had about 2,100 men participate in the survey. And you can see that these are broken down by region, North America being the most prominent region, but we have some representation from other locations as well. So I'm going to go through just for a few moments here some of the demographic data, and then I'll start highlighting some of the major, or I would say interesting results based on what we're seeing here. So for women, the average age is 45 years old. There's fewer women nearing retirement, and we define retirement age as more than 56 years old as compared to women. So this suggests that women as they age tend to leave the profession, either retiring or going somewhere else. But based on the data, that's what we're going to saw. In terms of the mixes by region, we kind of alluded to this earlier here, but this is a breakdown of men and women and different the 6 major geographic regions throughout the world. Globally, women are about 22% of our total sample size, but certainly it doesn't it's not representative across all different regions. That can certainly vary, but that's overall what we're seeing as well. When we look at the mix of women and men by different sectors of the industry, it's pretty consistent, whether it's education, government, healthcare, private sector. There's other reports, other sectors as well in the full report, but it's pretty universal in terms of where we see women working versus other sectors as well. In terms of job function, a majority of men and women for this particular study work in what we call facility operations. So that's your typical facility manager position. One note to just kind of point out with this is that in FM, in fact, is kind of interesting. When we initially did this study, we asked respondents, what's your job title? What do you do? And out of all 3,200 people, we had literally 800 different job titles for facility manager. And so that's a common challenge because there's different definitions for what we mean. But on this particular survey, we tried to really stratify or make different categories of where people worked at. And certainly facility operations here is the number one category that we happen to see with this. So when we look at this here, one of the questions that we started looking at is that as you look at the workforce in terms of seniority level or age level, perhaps, is that as women tend to get more senior positions, the proportion of them relative to their male counterparts tended to go down. So you see here we have entry level on the top, 69% were male, 31% were female. Mid level, that drops almost by 10 percentage points. And by senior level, another 6 to 7 percentage points in terms of the ratio of men and women. So when we first saw this here, so just maybe I'll back up a little bit further here, is that when we did this study initially, it was really just looking at salary compensation for facility professionals. That was our marching orders. That's what we're meant to look at. But as we looked at this here, as we started to break this down, these disparities that we saw in women versus men was not surprising per se, but it's not what we had initially anticipated to look at when we went into this. But certainly being researchers, we saw something that this is unusual. And so we started looking at, well, why is that? Why is there fewer women as folks tend to progress throughout their careers? So we literally kind of thought initially about two things. Is it due to maybe educational differences? Are there pay gaps? Are women being paid less the more senior they go relative to their male counterparts? Is there less education opportunities or whatever it might be? And so those are kind of the two main things that we looked at here. So the first thing for education, what we looked at here is that in general, there are no significant differences between women and men. So for the master's degree, 24% of women have a master's degree, 28% of men do. So men have slightly more master's degrees. However, at the bachelor's degree level, they are kind of the opposite. 46% of women have a bachelor's degree of our respondents, and 42% have a bachelor's degree for men. So there are some minor differences, but they're pretty close overall. So that doesn't quite explain it. We looked at types of degrees of men and women. And what we saw here is that, yes, there are some major differences, particularly in engineering. For our particular study, we found that 26% or 26%, it's 26% of our respondents had engineering undergrad degrees, and 5% of women had an undergrad degree. Whereas if you look at business management, there's far more, first off, more people that have that type of degree, but the differences are almost universal. For the women in the study, it was mostly architecture and liberal arts is where most of them came from. So again, some of these things are not specific to facility management per se, but this is in many cases more historic precedents, just what we've seen for years and years. And this is a broad engineering thing that we see a lot of times that there's typically more men in engineering compared to women. That is certainly changing and something that should be absolutely considered. And we certainly encourage everybody of all persuasions to pursue other degrees and other fields based on what your interest is here. But this is what the data showed. The other thing we saw is that the growth of and recruitment from FM academic programs specifically is, in our opinion, a key to greater gender equality for facility management. When we have those specific degree programs, that can certainly be an excellent way to recruit more diverse views, more diverse people to go into these programs. I know Mike is a professor at BYU. They have an FM program as well, and that's an outstanding way to recruit people into these positions. There are a number of FM programs throughout the country, and so that's certainly something to consider for folks that might be looking to break into that.
Jake, just a quick comment. We
Yeah,
have 25% women in our program too, which is pretty close to what you're seeing there.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great. So that was one thing here. So we thought that maybe it's differences in degrees. I mean, the engineering thing is maybe a little bit, but it's not not a clear indicator as to why, because our question here is why are women leaving FM as they progress throughout their career? We looked at pay as maybe another potential explanation, maybe that women at the more senior levels are being paid less, and so therefore they leave and go to a different career or do something different altogether. And what we found here is actually the opposite. Women receive similar pay as men for entry level and early mid level FM jobs. However, as their careers progress, women tend to be paid more compared to their male counterparts. So on average, not average, the median pay for senior level facilities professionals, females, is $146,000 per year, whereas males tend to be at about $115,000 per year. So we're seeing here is that there is certainly a pay escalation for women as they move throughout their career. And we also looked at other things as well. If we looked at, maybe women have less, maybe less job responsibilities or more job responsibilities or staff responsibilities. And what we find here is that when you look at the other criteria, that they tend to have slightly smaller staff responsibilities and budget responsibilities compared to men, and yet the salary was not dramatically affected by that here. So it's interesting. We also look to real estate construction management as other fields just to compare this. Again, similar sort of pattern that's similar to entry level and mid level, but again, as they move up in their careers, women tend to receive significantly more pay. I mentioned the budget responsibilities of women and men. You can see here that this is the budget responsibilities on the vertical axis here, and this shows the average values here. And you can see that these are similar based on their career, but as they progress throughout their career, the budget responsibility for men tends to go up. This is for women on the bottom, and yet we still see that there's a higher compensation. When you look at staff responsibilities, so the size of the staff, again, throughout their careers, blue is male, this red line is female, and you can see that men tend to have larger staff sizes. Now, when you look at what about satisfaction? Maybe there's a difference in satisfaction in terms of the pay. Women are more satisfied with pay compared to men at every job level. They are being paid more, so certainly that would help explain some of that. But again, the main thing is that low pay is not a factor in higher levels of female FM attrition. That really doesn't explain it based on the dollars and their satisfaction level. That doesn't quite explain it. We also looked at, well, how long does it take women to find different positions in their in the roles, right? So on average, women are about almost 50% faster than men in terms of finding new positions. So for entry level, on average, it takes women about 12 weeks to find a job. Men is at 15 weeks. Mid level, it's more than half the time, 7 weeks for females, 16 weeks for males, and then for senior level, 9 versus 13 weeks. And so they tend to find jobs significantly faster. The other thing here too is that other factors to consider, women have longer current job tenures than men. So this is the number of years in their position. So on average, women were at their current positions for just under 8 years, whereas men is at 3.5 years. So men, at least based on this data, tend to switch jobs more often. And there's other data that's also included with this as well. So all of these things together is really quite interesting. And we think about why this is. Our suspicion, we don't have a totally clear answer as to why that's happening, but our suspicion after looking at all these factors is that women in this role that progress, continue to progress in this field are truly the all-stars, the best of the best. There's fewer women that are in these positions. Those that are in these positions are truly outstanding. And so for all this together, that explains, in our view, why that might potentially explain why they have higher salaries. And at the same time, though, the attrition rate, other facets of it too, wife and family responsibilities are also a part of that. And certainly that's changing as I see different trends in the workforce. But that's coming to solve when we look at all these different factors here. Now, one last thing that we looked at in the study was, well, what's the role of mentorship? And what we looked at here is, again, in this particular table, this is women on the left-hand side. These are different factors. This is men on the right-hand side. What we found here is that when you look at every single measure of what we might call job satisfaction, anyone that has a mentor is more satisfied in their positions if they have a mentor. So for example, we asked, do you feel like you have a flexible work schedule? Those without a mentor said they do, 80%, where those with a mentor said, yes, I have 84%. We looked at, do you feel stressed or burned out? 70% of people said that without a mentor says, yes, they do feel that, whereas those with a mentor have a 58%. So there's fewer of them. Job security, employer supports responsibilities. Every single measure, both for women and men, those that have a mentor exhibit higher levels of job satisfaction. So I think the main takeaway for all this, and in fact, we have a new research project that will be kicking off next year with IFMA, is how do we actually form these mentoring relationships between the mentors and the mentees, and how do we actually put these people together? There are a number of mentoring programs out there in a variety of different segments, not just in FM, but this particular research project we're taking on here is meant to look at specifically how do we do this, what are the key factors, and how do we get people together in a mentoring relationship that is going to be productive and rewarding for all parties that are involved with that. So, and again, the reason why is just because we know that everything that we look at here is that mentoring makes a positive difference. So we're excited to kick that off. If you have an interest in that, be sure to reach out to us, and we'll send you some details about that. So kind of in summary here for the main part of the details here, women in FM continue to be underrepresented. We have a new salary survey, so we're going to be looking at this again next year as well. That is coming out. There's more women being hired into entry-level roles, but they're not staying in the FM profession. Why are women leaving exiting at a higher rate? Again, we talked about this. It's not due to education. It's not due to low pay, and it's not due to limited industry demand. I think it's primarily familial responsibilities and other reasons that folks might be leaving the field. So we have new additional research. We're trying to understand this better, and that'll be coming down the line. So in summary here, again, we appreciate IFMA's sponsorship of Ask the FM Doctor, and their support has been great over the years, and a lot of other really exciting research projects are coming down the line.
Join us on the third Tuesday of every month at 1 p.m. Eastern U.S. time to learn from our FM docs while connecting with other facility managers from around the world. Register today at simplarfoundation.org/FM-doctor.